In this example, we're going to show you how to load a table record by a field that isn't the ID. So for example, if I type in Mark here and press this button, it's going to load that record. But if I type in Pete, it'll load that record. Let's get into it. So first we'll have a really simple table with just an ID and a text field. And then we'll create an app. And the app will first display this table. And we'll select the Tulip Table as a data source and choose our table. Create a record placeholder for it. And then add some fields. Let's add the ID and the text field. Now let's add an input box where we can type in the name that we want to load, and then a button that'll let us load that record. And let's label it. So back in the table, to do this, we're going to use a query. So let's create a new query and name it. We're going to put a filter on it and filter the text field to equal the app input. So this way, in the application, we can use that input field to filter the table. And then we'll limit to 1. So now if you test it, you'll see that if I type in Mark, it'll only show me that record. And the same is true if I type in Pete. I'll only see the Pete record. Now let's create an aggregation. We're going to use the mode calculation, and the mode calculation basically shows which item shows up the most. And since there's only one record, we're just going to get the one ID that's present. Now we can add the query and add the aggregation. And select the variable which we haven't created yet. So we'll create a variable for the entered text, and we'll use that to filter the query. Then we'll add the aggregation. And we'll change the text box to have that new variable. Now when we click this button, we'll add a trigger. What the trigger is going to do is actually look up the table aggregation's value and load the record. So we'll do table records, create or load record, by the ID, and the ID is going to be the table aggregation's ID of record, and we'll load that into the record. And now, if we test the application, you'll see that typing in Mark will load up that record. Thanks.